Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here with you. It's a joint presentation, which we didn't rehearse, so expect the worst and let's hope for the best. Just a quick introduction on myself, Philip Gaspar. I'm a chemical engineer. Actually, I studied and worked for almost 8 years in the University of Birmingham, so very pleased to be back here and to have the fish and chips and this perfect accent. At Hovione, I've been playing different roles, but all related with manufacturing technology. More recently, I've been the CTO of the company, so looking over R&D, but also our digital program, the digital transformation. And more recently, my role is as head of technology intensification. So some technologies where we are leaders in the market, like spray drying, and we want to remain there. We want to make sure that we don't slip over our laurels. And others like continuous tableting, which we're going to speak today, which have enormous potential, and we want to make sure within the company that we set all the foundations to be successful.
Thank you, Filipe. So, Phil Gabb, I'm the Strategic Business Director for GEA, one of those wonderful titles that sounds great but doesn't actually mean much. What it actually does mean is that I look after most of our bigger customers, so all the contacts, whether it's sales, whether it's project execution, whether there's a problem, but I also get involved actively in leading the GEA teams for our larger projects. So that has meant that over the last 5 years, I've had quite a lot of contact with this guy to my left. I'm also a chemical engineer. I went to a good university, though, in Nottingham. But I actually worked for 20 years out of an office that was based 5 miles away from here. So between Solihull and Birmingham, the GEA office there that was there for many years. So very many happy memories of working in and around Birmingham, and also a bit of entertainment around here as well. So if we go on to the agenda, what we're going to talk to you about today. We're not going to talk too much about technology. We have got a couple of slides which cover what continuous tableting does promise as a technology. We're going to look at the level of adoption. You know, how much has the pharma industry embraced this technology so far? And then we're going to look at the challenges that the technology faces to becoming a mainstream technology, because at the moment it's certainly not mainstream. The main point about our being here today is to actually explain to you the collaboration that Hovione and GEA have embarked upon. We will, with the aim of accelerating the adoption of this technology. We will actually have a couple of video type sessions. One's a live stream from our test facility in Belgium. So the technology gods, please behave. We then have a video that actually will show you what we've achieved together in the Hovione facility. And we'll finish with our vision for what we see and what we hope for in the next 5 to 10 years for continuous tableting.
Okay, so talking a little bit about the relevance of continuous tableting in the industry. As was already mentioned today, at least in 2 previous presentations, it is one of the most innovative technologies in pharma. And our industry is quite slow in adopting innovation. But continuous tableting is broadly agreed as one of the most promising ones. It combines multiple unit operations that today are done mostly in batch with strict controls about product quality at every step into a single continuous process where quality is monitoring along the entire process. And this obviously has a lot of promises and also challenges to the industry. But you can see here a statement from Janet Toothcock, someone of her dimension within the FDA and the industry, very early on, 2014, saying that it creates opportunities that didn't exist before. It is very flexible, and actually promoting that the nation, in this case US, would look at it as a step change in the drug manufacturing. So there is a lot of promising, but we are not still there to become a mainstream, and that's why part of our collaboration with GEA comes into place.
So just wanted to share with you a little bit our experience on the Conti business cases, the reasons why people have adopted continuous manufacturing already. Because we heard some of them this morning, but actually there's a lot of very diverse business reasons for looking at Conti. I've sort of summarized them into three particular areas. Agility being the first. Supply chain agility. I think it was both Pfizer and AstraZeneca mentioned this morning. You know, the ability to make a batch of almost any size you like on the same equipment just to meet the demand of your customers or the market, that's tremendous. Okay. You actually have far less risk of lost product loss because you have no work in progress. You have none of these intermediate steps, none of these quality steps, no storing of half-made product in IBCs. You put powder in at one end and tablets come out at the other end in a matter of minutes. It is faster to actually set up and run. I know there's a lot of time taken for changeovers. That's something we've actually worked on and have improved dramatically from the first systems. But this flexibility of batch size and almost zero waste, these are real benefits. You also heard the messages this morning about time to market. You know, time is money, especially when you're in product development. The faster you get that product to market, the faster you start earning profit. And quite simply, Conti is faster. The best example we have is the one I've shown at the bottom, 10 times faster with 10 times less API. That's a good business case. But also, you shouldn't miss the fact that you get a far better yield. You actually have far less rejects when you're running a Conti line than you'll ever have with a batch process. You're in full control, you know what's happening. If something goes out of specification, you pause the line, you fix it, and you go back into production. Your losses are kilos if you're unlucky, probably grams.
So to tell you a little bit about the experience in continuous tableting at Hovione, we started a long way ago already, 2015, with the groundbreaking ceremony in our US site, where we wanted to implement for the first time the technology. And at the time, we did this in partnership with a customer, and it was very interesting because we didn't know even how to spell formulation. We didn't know. We were in the API business. We had moved into spray-dried intermediates, and this customer invited us actually to adopt this challenging technology with GEA support. And I think that we had the critical ingredients in the sense that we had a track record of quality by design. We have been one of the first CDMOs, actually, if not the first. We had a long establishment with process analytical technologies. We had a modeling group. So we thought, well, if this is the next thing and we believe on the merits of it, let's go for it. But as you can see here, it took us a lot of time. From starting from a greenfield in the end of 2015, and the unit was finally qualified beginning of 2020, and now we've been approved by the FDA and is running 24/5, producing commercial product. And the driver was exactly what Philip mentioned, is flexibility in supply chain. Our customer had already their own installation where they took the benefit of time to market, so we can't claim that in the second unit, but we are seeing the progress of that. So soon after, we started the commissioning of a second unit in Portugal, which is now operational, and you'll see the video, in part of the video tour, aspects of that unit. But this has been a long journey. It takes time, but I think is the effort that it takes to actually disrupt boundaries of technology. And we are very pleased to be in a position where we are learning with our customers, with the technology providers, because we strongly believe that this is the future of tableting in the pharma industry.
Okay, so you've heard me tell you about the advantages of this wonderful technology. Why hasn't everybody gone out and bought 10? Well, let's just first of all look at what is the current level of adoption. So this is something that we've put together based on our combined knowledge. Obviously, we know at GEA who we've sold to. Hovione actually talked to a lot of people who've bought from us, but also bought from other people. So what you can see here is our best estimate of the production units that are actually either installed or now working or planned over the next 18 months. So the numbers are significant. They're not revolutionary yet, but there is a strong growth both within the pharma companies and in CDMOs. So the technology is growing, it is being adopted, but not as fast as we'd like. And you can see on the side of the slide that the number of products that have now been released and approved across the world. Nothing secret about those. Most people now are very pleased to announce when they get approval of a product made on Conti. But I'd also back that up with statements that we heard. We heard one this morning about 80% of new products planned to be made on continuous. That is a sort of number that we hear time and time again. Big Pharma really sees the benefits of this and is gearing up for it. We want to say, well, why only Big Pharma? Why not the rest? Okay.
And just an additional note, Philip. What we see in this graph is what is expected from an emerging technology in terms of adoption in the market. It's always led by large pharma, which have, let's say, vast pipelines and can justify the use of these enabling technologies. But if there is no interest, the CDMOs will not follow. But the CDMOs have a crucial role, and I'll explain this forward. But this is exactly what we expect to see, and we hopefully will see this escalating at a faster pace in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, we spoke already about the opportunities, the challenges, and this is our combined view about the advantages, the things that we still need to work on, and the part of it is the reason why we've partnered together. For example, the continuous monitoring of quality, faster time to market. We've heard today from Scott from Pfizer saying that 6 to 14 months in the two products. So if a product sells on average $1 billion a year, you can see what is the impact in actually accelerating the time to market. The flexible supply chain, so the ability to change batch size as the market requires, is also something that is very easy to accommodate in continuous tableting, but is much more difficult when you've filed in a batch process batches of 1,000 kilos or 1 million tablets. The smaller footprint, this is an important aspect, and we had presentations today about sustainability, and Massim spoke about that in the glass industry. But again, having smaller units, very compact units, is not just less steel that is involved, is less buildings, is less water or detergents that you use to clean the unit. So it has an important impact on the sustainability of the process. Then there are things that are put here on yellow, the regulatory knowledge. We know that some of the large pharma, some of the regulators, the FDA, the European agency are very well acquainted with the principles of continuous manufacturing, but it's not homogeneous throughout the industry. And there is a perception of additional risk when embarking in continuous tableting. And this will level up eventually as more and more examples will come to commercial reality. The other thing has to do with the cost of the tablets. The initial case studies were very disadvantageous because there was so much investment in development. But as we streamline the development processes, as we converge into standards of operation, standards of also the regulatory submissions, this is changing. And we have actually case studies internally that prove that continuous tableting, as one would expect, will become more economical than batch process. And if you factor in this faster to market impact, then it can really switch the scales of the balance very, very quickly. Then are things that still need to be addressed. So operational complexity, it's still very complex. We cannot rely on operators with 1 month of training to run these machines. We have PhD people with months, years of training to be able to understand what is going on with all these unit operations running in parallel. There is a legacy infrastructure, so it's not easy if you are invested in batch to suddenly convert this into continuous. The development paths, I think we are converging to a common understanding, but when do we switch from batch to continuous? Do we start initially from continuous? So there are still question marks that we need to address. And also the limited CDMO network. It is important, and I'm speaking almost against myself here, but we need competitors, we need credible competitors, so that the technology becomes accessible to all. A lot of the innovation comes from small biotech, virtual pharma, and they need to have reliable supply chains to trust with.
Don't switch yet.
Yep.
So this slide actually shows or gives you the answer to why hasn't Conti taken off as quickly as some people expected. Yes, there are lots of benefits, but there are also quite a few challenges, which, to be honest, outside of big pharma, most companies struggle to deal with them. That's what we've seen. We've had lots of projects where they've got really excited by the green bits on the one side, and then they've run up against some of the red challenges, and they said, yeah, perhaps we're not ready. So we decided we better do something about this. We decided. As you've seen from one of the previous slides, GEA and Hovione have got quite a long experience of working together on Conti projects. We've had lots of contact at quite senior levels over many years. And we actually came to the understanding that we could do something about this by working together. Yes, it would be for the benefit of the industry, but it would also be the mutual benefit of Hovione and GEA. And so, the Hovione and GEA strategic collaboration was born. So this is a formal partnership. The two companies have spent quite a lot of time documenting what we'll do and who'll do what. But the whole purpose of it is that by our synergetic inputs to the partnership, we will accelerate the adoption of continuous tableting across the market. Some key work streams on that are standardization of equipment. A lot of the systems that have gone in so far have been bespoke either slightly or completely customized to meet the requirements of a particular customer. We are actually driving a standard design, standard modules that will actually make things a lot easier for everybody. We're also working together to make assets available faster, either through the facility, the capabilities in Hovione, or by shortening delivery times. We're actually working very strongly right now on a new commercial tableting rig, joint development input, that will give a completely new level of flexibility for continuous tableting. I can't tell you any more about that yet, but it's coming. We also have a number of other joint development projects. So it's not just about Filipe and Phil talking together nicely. This collaboration extends into our innovation teams, our engineering teams, our sales and marketing teams. It's something that is really quite well embedded now within the two companies. Having said that, we're not married. This is not an exclusive relationship. GEA will still supply equipment and processes to other customers, and Hovione will still buy equipment from other suppliers. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that it is a non-exclusive relationship.
It's an open friendship, right?
Yes, we're not married, but we're open friendship. Yeah. Okay.
Good. So a question that probably some of you have is, what is the benefits for our customers of GEA, customers of Hovione? And one of them is actually the access to an expanded capacity. So both GEA and Hovione, we have development facilities in Europe as well as in the US. And Hovione has clinical and commercial facilities also in Europe and US. And through this collaboration, we extend the ability to work together and access to equipment. More than equipment, and probably even more important, is this access to expertise. And here I'm doing a little bit of a blunt statement, but I truly believe, because I know the value of my team, and over the last years I've learned the value of GEA's team, but I think together we have probably the best pool of experts in continuous tableting. So we've seen it basically all. And this is something, the pool of expertise that is available to our customers. As Philip mentioned, we are working a lot on standardization of equipment. It doesn't mean that it needs to be equal, but it needs to be equivalence. We need to facilitate tech transfers. We need to be able to, it's like, I like the example of the aeronautic industry, right? Every company either have Airbus or Boeings, or there are also credible smaller manufacturers. But you need to have a level of standard, so you can actually switch from one plane to the other plane, and you can have a pilot driving one or the other. And there needs to be a minimum commonality in terms of how we design these equipments and how we run them. This will facilitate tech transfers from development to manufacturing, from CMO to CMO, from large pharma to CMO, and this is an important part of turning this technology a mainstream one. Because we are doing all these development projects jointly, and we have 3 new ones to be approved, to seek approval actually in 2 weeks' time. Our customers also benefit from a continuing evolution of the technology. And then other aspects that have to do more with the regulatory aspects is working a lot on the control strategies. fit for purpose. It doesn't mean that we go full-blown or that we become bare-bone, but you need to have control strategies for each of these programs. Oops.
No, that's fine, that's fine. So this was the slide you saw a few minutes ago, showing the current status quo, the balance between opportunities and challenges. And quite simply, the collaboration has the target of turning all of those amber and red boxes into green boxes by spreading the regulatory knowledge. You know, Hovione are experts at dealing with the regulators in many countries. I'll say it because he won't. We know by working together we can actually reduce the cost per tablet. Very clearly, we're already getting there, but we know where we need to improve. One of the developments that we're looking at is actually making this equipment, this technology, much easier and simpler to operate. We're going to make sure that there is good access to assets. If somebody wants to trial or to start making a product on continuous, it will be easier than it is today. It will be easier and faster. We're working together to actually develop these robust development plans. Actually, not just plans on paper, but actually embedding them in a digitalisation feature within the control system. And certainly, by working together and by collaborating as we have done, we know we'll have a capable CDMO network. So collaboration, not just for the sake of it, but for the real benefit of both GEA and Hovione and all our customers. So, first of all, now, I'm going to take you live to Belgium. Bart, can you, yes, excellent, thank you. The technology is working, you can hear me, I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Excellent. This is Bart Steinen, who's one of our key continuous sales managers. And Bart's going to just take you on a fairly short tour of the test capability that we have dedicated to Conti, because we also have batch equipment there. But this is in Wommelgem, near Antwerp in Belgium. Bart, over to you.
Thank you. Is that a warning from you, Philip, to keep it short, or?
No, you know me.
Yeah. In any case, 12 points to you, to the UK.
No, that would be a first.
I have no clue. I don't follow the Europe Song Festival. No, in any case, welcome to Wommelgem. So indeed, my name is Bart Steinen. I will take you to a short tour through our facility. So we have here in Wommelgem both a batch lab and we have a Conti lab, and of course it's a Conti lab that we want to showcase today. The area I'm standing here right now is our small R&D lab. I hope the background noise from our downflow booth isn't wreaking havoc on my voice. But I'll also give you a warning that what you will be seeing here is everywhere there is work ongoing. So here we just finished feeder tests this morning. So we were doing feeder tests for one of our customers. I would say a feeder test is typically the first test that we do for any Conti customer. It's the feeder is always the heart of your Conti system. It's the feeder, the loss and weight feeder, that's regulating the throughput of your Conti system and is in a way always responsible for the max throughput that your system can run at. So today we were running some API feeder tests to determine the characteristics of this particular API and to see how stable and how fast we can run this API. So this is typically work we do here. Normally we also have a Consigma 1 in this room, our twin screw wet granulation R&D equipment, but that's still somewhere in the hallway. So we'll pass by that one pretty quick. But I'll first take you to our wet granulation suite through here. So let's say that the original Conti equipment from GEA is a twin screw wet granulation process with our segmented fluid bed dryer. But also, as you can see, we have disassembled it. It's already cleaned, all the parts are standing in the hallway, ready to be assembled again. And currently, we're also doing maintenance and servicing on the tablet press. And so that means that our wet granulation line is a line that goes from a pre-blend, normally on top, that we dock through a loss in weight feeder, the granulator that's not there drying, granule conditioning unit into our tablet press. So this is a full powder to tableting line, including what you probably cannot see from there. But if we go through here we have our GEA Consigma coater installed. So this is directly connected to our tableting press. So if necessary, or if we want, we can run tableting tests directly from tablets just made by wet granulation into our coater. Or we can just load pre-weighed tablets into the coater just to do repeated DOEs on our coater. So with this type of equipment, we can do every 15 minutes, we can do a new, completely different DOE, which is true with all our Conti equipment. So you can really, you can change in a very fast way from one set point onto the other. You do not have to wait until your full batch is completed to change parameters, to change new process parameters and see what the effect is on your product. Let's go into the hallway. Yes, Phil, I'm really going to keep it very quick.
You always follow instructions, Bart. That's great.
You know me.
And whilst you're walking down the corridor, I'll just point out to those of you who watched the Pfizer presentation this morning will have seen equipment very, very similar to what Bart's just shown.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
A lot of the components there.
If you have seen, if Pfizer has talked about PCMM and they have talked about wet granulation, this is the same fluid bed dryer that they have, the same granulator that is on the PCMM unit, is on this unit we have here in the lab, but is also on the same unit as Hovione has in their lab in Lisbon. So the granulators, the fluid bed dryers, depending of course on the size of the equipment, is all the same. Hasn't changed. Process-wise, hasn't changed in, let's say, the 14 years that it's on the market. Of course, there's a lot of improvements done to make it more robust, more stable, but all the process stuff inside has not changed. So that meaning that processes that were developed 14 years ago can still run on the equipment that you can buy today. Further down the hallway, this is our Consigma 1. It's missing its small fluid bed dryer, but this is our R&D piece of equipment that we used to do very fast DOEs on the granulator, so that meaning that we can do in a single day, we can do 30, 40 DOEs if necessary on this granulator. And going further is our CDC unit. So we're just, I'm not sure if we're putting it back together even. So this is our CDC piece of equipment, direct compression. We have had tests on Monday and Tuesday, I believe, with paracetamol. So yesterday we started to take it apart. Today we're again putting it back together, and tomorrow we'll be doing a new set of trials with another customer. And on Tuesday next week we have a third customer. So that means, let's say, in 1 week we will use the CDC on 3 different products with 3 different customers. In between customers, every time the full CDC is cleaned, of course. So showing how versatile and how quick the turnover is to go from one product to the next. Quick introduction on the CDC, if you haven't seen it in a further video, maybe on the conference or on YouTube before. So the CDC is a one-shop factory, almost direct compression, meaning that we have material handling typically on top of the machine or standing next to the machine, where we bring the products either by vacuum or by gravity to the loss in weight feeders, which are here in the back. We have 6 loss and weight feeders in the back, and they are feeding into 2 linear blenders, which the second one you can see sticking out here, going directly into the tableting zone. So we have a two-stage blending setup, which means that you can really work on the process that your products need. So the two blenders are completely controlled separately. First stage blending, second stage blending, so you can really diverse the process development that you want to achieve in the CDC. We also bring the final blend as close as possible to the compression zone, so you have no risk for segregation. So you don't have big fall heights. We don't bring the material, the blended material by vacuum to the final compression zone. So there is really no risk of segregation. Of course, after the tableting is done, you can connect the CDC as well to a coater. This is not achieved in this room because we have a coater in the wet granulation zone, but of course on any commercial unit this is a possibility. So I would say, Phil, this concludes a very short tour of our lab. Not sure if you have any questions or comments.
I think that's perfect. Thank you, Bart. I mean, you've covered what we have there. You've covered the key points. Yes, we did also have a little bit on CDC this morning from AstraZeneca. But of course, we'll also now go to a video showing a real-life installation of the CDC in the coater. So thank you, Bart.
Okay.
Great job. Thank you.
Great.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, I feel a bit embarrassed that I don't have a video streaming now. But the guys from operations don't like people filming while they are running the unit, but they prepared what we call a virtual tour. And what we're going to show you is actually the work that is done in the R&D labs, a lot of preparatory work, and then the transition from R&D will go to the manufacturing facility, and you'll see the facility also working. It's a video, but I think it will show you very well the principles of tech transfer from lab to clinical manufacturing. So can you run the video? So there is a bit of selling of the company, but bear in mind. So this is the translation from science to manufacturing. And we'll start in R&D, our R&D center, where we host about 200 scientists working in different areas. One of them, very critical, is continuous tableting. The aim is always to use the minimum amount of API in the development process, so we work very strongly in the best methodologies to save API, which is very expensive at this stage. And what you are seeing here is the initial tests in terms of powder characteristics. So we need actually to compare for each API. For the excipients, we have obviously a very strong database, but for every API, we need to characterize it very well in the lab before we start modeling its behavior and testing it also in the lab. So one of the characteristics is the rheology of the powders. And here what you can see is one of our scientists assembling a feeder. So like Bart was showing, testing the powders with the feeders is a very important aspect. And we are doing this with exact replicas of the equipment we have in manufacturing, and the same equipment that, for example, GEA has in their test station. So these are all equivalent equipment. So that when we move from lab to the unit, we know as best as we can how it's going to behave. So these are the feeding tests, understanding how well the feeder behaves with this API and within which range of flows. And we have, as other presenters here this morning, we develop our digital twins. So every unit model is developed. And this is what allows us to predict the best conditions to move into commercial manufacturing without trial and error. Very important as well is the PAT and the development of the PAT methods. So this starts in the lab. Again, this is a replica, a feed frame NIR, which is a replica of what we have in commercial unit. We still need to validate the PAT methods in commercial, but when they move there, they are pretty well qualified over a wide range of conditions. So moving now to the manufacturing building, which is only 10 minutes drive, 10-minute drive from the R&D building. And this is what we call Building 22. And is located just in the outskirts of Lisbon. And you'll see now our CDC-10. So it's a smaller version of the CDC-50 in terms of throughput. And we found it was very important to have these smaller throughput machines, particularly to take projects from early stage, where the hold-up volumes are very critical to the amount of API spent. So this is the docking of the IBCs into the unit. Here it's a fully automated system. The moment the operator is attaching the vibrator to the IBC, and as you can see here, it's also 6 feeders. And the feeders, as Bart mentioned, are very crucial because they dictate the proportion between the ingredients and the assay in the final tablet. This was also already mentioned. The fact that we are measuring quality over time means that if there is a deviation, we'll segregate that small portion of material, not putting at risk the entire batch. And then there is in the manufacturing unit several diversion points which allow us to segregate material that came out of the limits that we have established. As you can see, these units, despite being very technologically involved, they are also very pretty, and GEA does a great job in actually making these things pretty as well. So fully controlled after the tableting, we perform a film coating when required. This is done in semi-continuous mode. So as Bart mentioned, it's about 15 minutes to do every batch. So you have dual units, and while you are producing one mini batch, the other is charging for the next one. And the end product that goes like from the IBCs to tablet coated within minutes instead of several weeks in a batch process line. So very cross-functional. We need advanced manufacturing controls. We need also great partnerships, not only with the technology providers, but also with the research institutions that help us continue to evolve the knowledge about the technology. So, thank you for this time.
Nothing to be embarrassed about with that video, Filipe. It's very professional and gets the message across. So, thank you. I mean, I think one other point I would add, though, just, you know, that room you saw, that's the equivalent to your dispensing room, your blending room. your tablet compression room and your coating room. All of those functionalities being done in one small room. Okay? Absolutely. We heard about space saving. There, you saw the proof there. Yeah. So, to summarize.
Yeah, so as Philip mentioned, we've been in this partnership to increase the adoption of continuous tableting. There are several ways of evolution of what we think the technology needs to be. One of them that we are addressing at the moment is the simplification. It needs to be more simple to operate. Also, it needs to be easier to do development work in these units. At the moment, not all the aspects are actually included in these units. But, you know, if you have an iPhone or a smartphone, you see it's tremendous technology there and is so easy to use. And I think that's what we want to do here as well. We don't want to have 10 PhD students around a clinical manufacturing. We want to make it much easier for them. So this is the first way of evolutions that we are doing into the technology. Our teams have already the second and third wave prepared, so, but we're going to have to take it criteriously according to priorities. But I think that's what we aim to do together, is actually to bring this technology available to the common person, to the common operator, by putting the complexity in the software, in the algorithms, in the system, and make it easy to use. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the benefit is that our areas of expertise complement one another extremely well. You know, we've seen this over the years, and we're now starting to reap the benefits of it. And we hope to share those with many other pharma companies. So thank you very much for your attention. And are there any questions? Thank you.
Any questions for Philip and Phil?
Thanks, Steve. Mainly for you, Phil.
If I don't like the question, you're Phil.
I was knowing, we've been talking about this for years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, on the opportunities and challenges slide, I was quite surprised to see the word complex twice.
Mm-hmm.
It's been GEA's mission for the last 4 or 5 years to eliminate complexity.
In general, within GEA, yes, I would agree. But what you have here is an innovative technology that was being driven by some quite complex projects. So and of course, we've got lots of excellent engineers, and they love to engineer. So I'm afraid one of the traps that we fell into was a system that's very, very capable. It's full of bells and whistles, but actually it's quite complex to operate. What these guys have said to us is, well, we want a control screen that says start, pause, stop.
Yep.
That's the level of simplicity that we're aiming for now. And that, obviously all of the functionality and the features will be there in the background if people need them. But for an operator, it should be no different to operating a tablet press. That's the aim.
Fantastic, thank you. Also, when you and I both were less grey, we kind of agreed that there were certain batch processes that didn't need to be converted to continuous. They were perfectly good. Then throughout the years, we've seen that percentage drop, and more batch processes have thought, oh, do you know what? That actually does work as a continuous operation. Until a couple of people threw spanners in the works this morning.
Not really. No, I mean, what you saw, and I think if you heard carefully this morning, was what we hear as a message across the industry. It's not just about continuous. It's about process intensification. It's about integration of unit operations. Sorry, John Paul, I'm stealing some of your words, but you said it so well. But what that leads to also is an expansion of the percentage of products that can be manufactured using direct compression. And that's something that we saw coming a few years ago, I think has now become widely known, is products that you could not make on a batch direct compression process, you can make on a Conti direct compression process. Because it's intensified, because you're processing such a small quantity at one time, because you've actually linked and integrated the unit operations in such a way that you eliminate the opportunity for segregation. You know, these are some of the key challenges when you're trying to do batch direct compression. With a continuous process, we've taken that away.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hi there, thanks very much for that. I've got a couple of questions. First question really, I saw you measuring the rheology of the powders there. What are the limitations really within the process around the rheology? Is it just purely to get it to feed through the continuous screw feeders, or is that around tableting? Or
there are limitations. I'm not an expert, and I have to admit on that. But the flowability of the powders is one of them. And that's why sometimes the industry favors processes like wet granulation, because it kinds of level up all the variations that you might have from batch to batch in a tableting process. So flowability is one of the aspects, but there are others, which, because I'm not an expert. But as we were discussing just before, the fact that the technology is run with very minute quantities of powders, with very little time for segregation of materials with different properties between the API and the excipients, it actually expands the applicability of the technologies to powders that before we would disregard, for example, for direct compression. Yeah. So what are the new boundaries is something that, let's say, a lot of people are finding it experimentally, but is actually a challenge that we put to our R&D team, is to tell us how much we expand the design space in terms of powder properties by having a continuous process versus a batch process.
Okay, yeah. My other question, really serious question. I'm feeling the love there. How do we join in?
Very good.
You know, it takes a few years and a few million. Just to actually, if I just might add to the question about feeding, the feed system that we have is extremely flexible. The limit, most often, what we're trying to find when we do these feeding trials is how slowly can we feed and still maintain consistency. Okay, because to be honest, you know, at most throughputs we can feed. You'll get a little bit of variation, but the blenders will actually then smooth that out. But when you get down to very, very low throughputs, and I'm talking, you know, a gram a minute or even less. 3 milligrams per second. Exactly. Yeah. So when you really get down low, then you need to know how consistent can we get it. Is it still within the capability of the blenders to then smooth that out so that what's delivered to the tablet press is a homogeneous mixture? That's the real challenge for us. Okay. Well, but there are also ways around that, but that's another whole nother presentation.
Well, thank you, guys. I think we need to wrap there to try and get back on schedule. So thanks very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much.